The leather chair behind Father's mahogany desk had never felt so cold. I stared at the screen before me, my hand trembling as I scrolled through the spreadsheet that would change everything. The numbers didn't add up. They couldn't add up. $2 million doesn't just vanish into thin air. I'm Regina, and until yesterday, I was the family disappointment. The artsy one who chose photography over finance, much to everyone's dismay. But when Aunt Willow called me into her office last week, everything changed. "Regina, darling," she'd said, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against her desk, "I think it's time you took on more responsibility in the family business." I nearly choked on my coffee. "Me? Not Marcus? Your cousin is—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Better suited to other aspects of the business. You have a fresh perspective. Sometimes that's exactly what we need." I should have known it was too good to be true. Now, sitting here at midnight, surrounded by financial records that made my head spin, I understood why she'd chosen me. The outsider. The one nobody would suspect. A knock at the door made me jump. "Regina, you're still here?" Marcus stood in the doorway, his tie loosened and hair disheveled. The sight of my cousin brought both relief and anxiety. "Marcus, thank God. Come look at this." I waved him over, pointing at the screen. "These numbers, they're wrong, really wrong." He leaned over my shoulder, his cologne mixing with the staleness of the office air. "What do you mean? Look at these transfers. Every month for the past 3 years, exactly $47,000 moves through these shell companies. It's like—" I swallowed hard, "like someone's hiding money." Marcus's face went pale. "Shit," he whispered. I knew something was off, but this— "Did you suspect Aunt Willow?" He finished my thought. "She's been acting strange lately, more controlling than usual." The sound of heels clicking down the hallway made us both freeze. Marcus quickly straightened up as Mother appeared in the doorway. "Regina, sweetheart, what are you doing here so late?" Her concerned expression made me feel guilty, though I'd done nothing wrong. "Just getting a head start, Mum. Aunt Willow wants me to learn everything about the business." "That's wonderful, dear." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Your father will be so pleased. He's worried about you, you know. We all are." I forced a smile. "No need to worry anymore. I'm all in now." After she left, Marcus closed the door quietly. "We need to be careful," he whispered. "If what we're seeing is real—" "It's real," I cut him off. "The question is, what do we do about it?" My phone buzzed, a text from Aunt Willow. "How's the transition going, dear? Finding everything you need?" I showed Marcus the message, his jaw tightened. "She's testing you." "Then I'll pass the test," I replied, typing back. "Everything's perfect. Thank you for this opportunity." Marcus grabbed my arm. "Regina, wait. Before you do anything, you need to see something else." He pulled up another file on the computer, this one buried deep in the system. "Look at the dates on these transfers. They started exactly when your photography studio went under." My blood ran cold. 3 years ago, my dreams of running my own business had crashed and burned. Aunt Willow had been there, offering sympathy and suggesting I focus on more practical pursuits. She knew, I whispered. She knew I'd eventually end up here, desperate to prove myself. "And now you have access to everything," Marcus added grimly. I leaned back in the leather chair, my mind racing. She didn't count on one thing, though. "What's that?" "You." I met his eyes. She didn't expect us to work together. Another text from Willow lit up my phone. "Dinner tomorrow night, the whole family. We should celebrate your new position." I showed Marcus the message, and we shared a knowing look. Tomorrow night would be interesting indeed. "We need a plan," he said, running his hands through his hair. I nodded, closing the spreadsheet and gathering my things. "We need proof, real proof." And then, I paused at the door, looking back at the office that had always represented everything I thought I didn't want. "Then we make things right." As we walked to the elevator, Marcus asked quietly, "Are you ready for this? It could tear the family apart." I thought about all the years of subtle put-downs, of being the black sheep, of watching my dreams crumble while Aunt Willow built her empire on lies. The family's already broken, Marcus. They just don't know it yet. The elevator doors closed with a soft ding, and I caught our reflection in the polished metal. For the first time in years, I didn't see the family disappointment staring back at me. I saw someone with purpose, someone with power, someone who was about to change everything. The family dinner felt like a performance, with Aunt Willow as the director and the rest of us her unwitting actors. I watched her hold court at the head of the table, champagne glass in hand, while Marcus and I exchanged subtle glances. To Regina, Willow raised her glass, finally embracing her destiny in the family business. Everyone clinked glasses. Father beamed with pride, while Mother squeezed my hand under the table. If they only knew what I'd discovered in just 2 days. Speaking of business, Willow continued, Regina, dear, how are you finding those quarterly reports I asked you to review? I took a careful sip of wine. Fascinating reading. I'm particularly interested in the offshore accounts. The slight twitch in Willow's perfectly lined lips was almost imperceptible. Almost. Offshore accounts? Father frowned. I wasn't aware we had any. Oh, just some tax efficiency measures. Willow waved her hand dismissively. Nothing for anyone to worry about. Later that night, Marcus and I met in my office. The city lights twinkled beyond the windows as we spread documents across my desk. Look at this, I pointed to a series of transactions. Every transfer goes through this company in the Cayman Islands before disappearing. Marcus leaned in, his tie dragging across the papers. Wait, I recognize this name. Stella's signature is on all these documents. Willow's lawyer? I pulled the paper closer. Why would she? The office door creaked open. We both jumped, but it was only the cleaning lady. After she apologized and left, Marcus locked the door. We need to talk to Stella, he whispered. She might be the weak link. Already ahead of you. I pulled out my phone, showing him an email. Meeting tomorrow morning. She thinks I'm just getting up to speed on legal matters. The next morning, Stella's office felt more like an interrogation room. She sat across from me, perfectly poised in her charcoal suit, but her eyes kept darting to the door. These transfers, I spread the documents on her desk, can you explain them? Standard business practices, she replied too quickly. Your aunt handles all major financial decisions. $2 million in hidden money isn't standard, Stella. Her pen clattered to the floor. As she reached to pick it up, I noticed her hands shaking. I don't know what you're implying. She straightened her glasses. But I suggest you discuss any concerns with Willow directly. I'm not implying anything. I'm telling you I know about the fraud. I leaned forward. And I'm wondering why a lawyer with your reputation would risk everything for this. Stella's facade cracked. You don't understand. Your aunt, she has ways of ensuring loyalty. Blackmail? She didn't answer, but her silence spoke volumes. Back in my office, I called Marcus. Stella's scared. Whatever Willow has on her must be big. I found something else. Marcus's voice was urgent. Remember that charity gala 3 years ago? The one where the donations went missing? Yeah, the investigation went nowhere. Because Willow buried it, I found the original donation records. She used that money to start the offshore accounts. My stomach churned. Stealing from charity? That's low, even for her. There's more, Marcus continued. I'm looking at a document right now. It has your signature on it. What? That's impossible. It's dated 3 years ago, right when your studio closed. It gives Willow power of attorney over your business assets. The room spun. She forged my signature? That's why my studio went under. She deliberately tanked it. Regina, Marcus's voice softened. She's been planning this for years, setting you up as the fall guy if anyone ever discovered the fraud. I gripped the edge of my desk, anger burning through my veins. Get everything you can. Every document, every signature, every transaction. We're taking her down. What about the family? She stopped caring about family the moment she forged my signature. A knock at my door made me jump. Willow stood there, elegant as ever in her designer suit. "Working hard, I see," she smiled, walking in uninvited. "I'm so pleased with your dedication, Regina. You remind me of myself at your age." "Thank you, Aunt Willow." I forced a smile, my heart pounding as I casually slid the documents under a folder. She picked up a framed photo from my desk, me at my photography studio's opening. "Such a shame about your little business venture. But everything happens for a reason, doesn't it?" Our eyes met, and in that moment I saw it, the calculating coldness behind her warm facade. She knew that I knew. "Yes," I replied steadily, "everything does happen for a reason." After she left, I texted Marcus. "She's on to us. We need to move faster." His reply came instantly. "Check your email. Found something big. Meeting tonight." I opened my email and gasped. There, in black and white, was a document with both Willow's and Stella's signatures, dated the exact day my studio went bankrupt. The game was changing. Willow might have been playing chess, but she didn't realize I'd stopped following her rules. It was time to flip the board. Marcus and I met at a small coffee shop 3 blocks from the office. Away from prying eyes, away from Willow's influence. The manila envelope he slid across the table contained enough evidence to destroy everything. "Look at the signature dates," he pointed to a series of documents. "Every major decision about your studio went through Willow first. She orchestrated the whole thing," I whispered, hands trembling as I flipped through the pages. The failed loan applications, the lost clients, the lease termination. "Regina," a familiar voice made us both freeze. Mother stood by our table, shopping bags in hand. "What a surprise. And Marcus, too." "Just going over some work stuff, Mom," I said, quickly sliding the envelope under my laptop. "Join us," Marcus offered, pulling out a chair. I shot him a look, but he subtly shook his head. "Keep it normal." "Oh, I shouldn't," Mother hesitated, then sat anyway. "But I have been wanting to talk to you, Regina. Your father and I are worried. You're working such long hours." "I'm fine, Mom. Just dedicated to learning the business. That's what concerns us. This sudden change, it's not like you." The barista brought Mother's cappuccino, buying me time to compose my response. "People change, Mom. Maybe I finally understand what's important." "Willow says you've been asking a lot of questions about the company finances." Marcus's coffee cup clinked sharply against its saucer. I kept my face neutral. "Of course I am. It's my job now." Mother leaned forward, lowering her voice. "Sweetheart, be careful. In this family, sometimes it's better not to dig too deep." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Stella was calling. "Sorry, I have to take this." I stepped outside, leaving Marcus to handle Mother. "Regina," Stella's voice was hushed, urgent. "Meet me at the park across from the office. Now." 20 minutes later, I found Stella on a bench, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. "I can't do this anymore," she said as I sat down. "Willow, she's getting suspicious, asked me to shred some documents today." "Did you?" "No, they're in here." She patted her bag. "But Regina, you need to understand something. Willow doesn't just have dirt on me, she has something on everyone." "What do you mean?" "Your father's gambling debts from the 90s. Your mother's brother who disappeared after that embezzlement scandal. Even that car accident Marcus was involved in during college. Willow helped cover it all up." My head spun. "She's been collecting leverage on everyone. It's how she maintains control. Why do you think your parents never questioned what happened to your studio?" Back at the coffee shop, Marcus was alone again. His face darkened as I relayed Stella's revelations. "The accident," he said quietly. "I always wondered how it got buried so quickly. I was drunk, Regina. Could have killed someone. Willow made it disappear. And now she owns you." "Owned," he corrected. "Past tense. I'm done being controlled by guilt." That evening, another family dinner. This time at Willow's mansion, with its cold marble floors and echoing halls. I watched everyone with new eyes. Father's nervous glances when money was mentioned. Mother's forced smiles. Marcus's quiet rage. "Regina," Willow called from across the dining room. Come help me with dessert. In the kitchen, she handed me plates of tiramisu. You've been quite thorough in your review of the company records. Just being diligent. Diligence is admirable, but loyalty. She stepped closer. Loyalty is everything. Is that a threat, Aunt Willow? A reminder, dear. Family protects family. Like you protected my studio? The slightest flicker in her eyes. I did protect you, from yourself, from failure. By forcing it to fail first. Careful, Regina. Her voice hardened. You're playing a dangerous game. No, Aunt Willow, you are. Later that night, I sat in my apartment, staring at the document Stella had given me. My phone lit up with a text from Marcus. Dad just called. Family meeting tomorrow morning. Willow's orders. Another text followed. She's making her move. I spread the papers across my coffee table, evidence of years of manipulation, fraud, and betrayal. My hands shook as I dialed a number I'd found in Stella's records. Federal Trade Commission, Fraud Division. I took a deep breath. I'd like to report a case of systematic tax evasion and corporate fraud. Can you hold for a moment? As I waited, I looked at the old photo of my studio opening day. I'd been so proud, so full of dreams. Willow had taken that from me, piece by piece. Tomorrow's meeting wouldn't go how she planned. The game was changing all right, but I wasn't just flipping the board anymore. I was burning it to the ground. The conference room felt like a pressure cooker. Willow sat at the head of the table, perfectly composed in her navy suit, while the rest of us waited in tense silence. Even the morning sun streaming through the windows felt cold. I've called this meeting, Willow began, because we have a situation. Someone has been accessing sensitive company files. Files they shouldn't have been looking for. Her eyes locked onto mine. I didn't flinch. Furthermore, she continued, I've learned that certain concerns have been raised with external parties. Father's face reddened. What kind of concerns? Nothing substantial. Willow waved her hand dismissively. Just some misunderstandings about our tax arrangements. Nothing we can't handle internally. Like we handled my studio. The words left my mouth before I could stop them. The room went silent. Mother gasped softly. Regina. Willow's voice was silk over steel. Perhaps this isn't the time. It's exactly the time. I pulled out my laptop. Should we discuss the forged documents, the manipulated loans, or maybe the $2 million hidden in offshore accounts? Regina, Father stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. What are you doing? Telling the truth, Dad. For once, someone in this family is telling the truth. Marcus cleared his throat. She's right. I've seen the evidence. Evidence? Willow laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. Of what? Standard business practices? Of fraud. I turned my laptop around, displaying the documents. Of systematic manipulation and corruption. Of destroying my business to keep me under your control. Mother started crying. Willow, tell me this isn't true. Of course it isn't, Willow snapped. Regina is obviously confused, overwhelmed by her new responsibilities. Really? I pulled out my phone, played the recording from yesterday's kitchen conversation. Willow's voice filled the room, admitting to destroying my studio. The color drained from her face. That's taken out of context. Like the context of Father's gambling debts. I turned to him, the ones Willow helped cover up in exchange for your unwavering support. Father collapsed back into his chair. Or Mother's brother's disappearance. The car accident Marcus was involved in. Stop, Willow commanded, standing up. You have no idea what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm ending this. All of it. Stella burst into the room, breathless. Willow, we have a problem. The FTC is here, with auditors. The room erupted into chaos. Father started shouting about reputation. Mother sobbed harder. Marcus moved to stand beside me, a silent show of support. Willow remained eerily calm. Everyone out, except Regina. After they left, she walked to the window, her back to me. You stupid, ungrateful child. Do you have any idea what I've built, what I've protected? You built it on lies, protected it with blackmail. I built it for the family. She whirled around. Everything I did was to keep this family strong, to keep us together. No, I stood my ground. You did it for control, for power. And now you'll destroy it all? For what? Revenge? For justice. A knock at the door. 2 federal agents entered, followed by Stella, who couldn't meet anyone's eyes. Ms. Steele? One agent stepped forward. We need to discuss some irregularities in your company's financial records. Willow's mask finally cracked. Regina, please, we can fix this. Together. I'll give you anything you want. I wanted my dreams, Aunt Willow, my studio, my independence, but you took those away. To make you stronger. No, to make me dependent, like everyone else in this family. The agents moved closer. Willow gripped the edge of the table. If I go down, she hissed, everyone goes down, every secret, every scandal, I'll reveal it all. No, you won't. I pulled out another document. Because while you were busy threatening everyone else, I found your biggest secret, the real reason you started the fraud. Her eyes widened as she recognized the paper. Your own embezzlement scandal from 20 years ago. The one that would have ruined you if it got out. The one that started all of this. How did you... Stella kept copies of everything. Insurance, she called it. The agent stepped forward again. Ms. Steele, please come with us. As they led her out, Willow turned back one last time. You'll regret this, Regina. The family will never recover. Maybe not, but at least we'll be free. After they left, Marcus came back in. The agents want to talk to everyone. It's going to be a long day. I nodded, staring at Willow's empty chair. Did we do the right thing? You did what she taught us to do, he said quietly. You protected the family, just not in the way she expected. Through the window, I watched Willow being escorted to a waiting car. The morning sun caught her hair, making it shine like a crown she'd worn for far too long. The kingdom was falling, but maybe, just maybe, something better could rise from its ashes. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of federal agents, lawyers, and endless questions. I sat in my office, watching news vans gather outside the building like vultures. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing with messages from family members, ranging from fury to despair. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. Mother stood in the doorway, looking older than I'd ever seen her. The agents are done with your father, she said quietly. He's not handling this well. Is anyone? She crossed the room and sat down heavily. Why didn't you come to us first, Regina, before going to the authorities? Would you have believed me over Willow? Her silence was answer enough. Mom, did you ever wonder why my studio really failed? Willow said the market was bad, that you weren't ready. Willow lied. She orchestrated everything. And you all just watched it happen. Mother's hands trembled as she reached for mine. We thought we were protecting you. No, you were protecting yourselves. From her. The door burst open. Father stormed in, his face red with anger. Do you have any idea what you've done? The board is in panic. Clients are pulling out. The stock is plummeting. Dad, don't. He slammed his hand on my desk. You've destroyed everything. Your aunt built this company from nothing. She built it on fraud and lies. She built it for us. For you. Marcus appeared behind him. Uncle, that's enough. You're just as bad, Father spun around. Both of you conspiring behind our backs. Like Willow conspired to destroy Regina's studio. Marcus stepped forward. Like she conspired to cover up your gambling debts. Father deflated like a punctured balloon. The agents found everything, I said softly. Every secret, every cover-up. It's all coming out now. My phone buzzed. A text from Stella. Willow's asking for you. Police station. I have to go. I stood up. Marcus, can you handle things here? He nodded. Be careful. She's cornered now. That makes her dangerous. The police station was chaos. Reporters crowded the entrance, shoving microphones at anyone who looked important. I slipped in through a side door, led by an officer to a small interview room. Willow sat there, still elegant despite her circumstances. Her makeup was perfect, her posture rigid. Only her eyes betrayed her desperation. "I didn't expect you to come," she said as I sat down. "Didn't you? You taught me family obligations, remember?" She laughed bitterly. "And now you fulfilled yours by destroying the family." "You destroyed it long ago. I just exposed the rot. Is that what you think?" She leaned forward. "I protected this family. Every secret I buried, every scandal I covered, it was all to keep us strong. It was to keep us afraid, dependent on you. I made you stronger. You made me hate myself." The words exploded out. "Every dream I had, every ambition, you crushed them all, made me believe I wasn't good enough. Because photography wasn't enough, you needed to learn real power, like the power you had over Stella, over Dad, over everyone." Willow's facade cracked slightly. They needed guidance, structure. They needed freedom, from you. A knock at the door. The officer returned. "Time's up." Willow stood, smoothing her skirt. "One last thing, Regina. There's a safe in my office, behind the Monet. The combination is your birthday." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you won, and winners should know everything." She paused at the door. "But remember, knowledge is a burden. Are you sure you can carry it?" Later that night, Marcus and I stood in Willow's office. The safe swung open with a soft click. "Oh my God," Marcus whispered as we looked inside. "Files, dozens of them, not just on our family, but on competitors, politicians, judges, years of collected secrets and sins." "This was her real power," I said, lifting out the folders. "This is how she controlled everything." "What do we do with it?" I stared at the files, thinking of all the lives they could ruin, all the power they represented. Willow's final test. Would I become her after all? My phone buzzed. A news alert. Major financial fraud uncovered. Family empire in chaos. I walked to the shredder in the corner and fed the first file in. Then the next. And the next. "Regina?" Marcus watched me work. "We're not her," I said, continuing to shred. "We're going to be better." The sun was rising by the time we finished, casting long shadows through the office windows. As I looked out over the city, I could almost see my old studio, now a coffee shop, the dreams Willow had crushed. "Ready to face the board?" Marcus asked. I nodded, turning away from the window. Time to rebuild. The right way this time. The shredder's basket was full of Willow's power, reduced to confetti. Her kingdom had fallen, but from its ashes, something new would rise. Something honest. The boardroom buzzed with tension as I stood at the podium. 12 pairs of eyes stared back at me, a mix of anger, fear, and curiosity. These people had been Willow's allies for years. Now they were my problem. "The company is bleeding," Howard, the CFO, jabbed his finger at the projection screen. "Stock's down 40%. Clients are jumping ship. We need damage control, not some amateur photographer's feel-good reforms." "Those reforms," I kept my voice steady, "are exactly what will save us." "Save us?" he scoffed. "Your aunt?" "My aunt is in custody facing federal charges," I cut him off. "Anyone who wants to continue her methods can join her there." Marcus stepped forward, distributing folders. "These are the new compliance protocols. Full transparency, regular external audits, real accountability." "This is absurd," Howard stood up. "I move for an immediate vote of no confidence." "Sit down," a quiet voice commanded. All heads turned to Thomas, the eldest board member. He hadn't spoken since the meeting began. "But," I said, "sit down." Thomas adjusted his glasses. "I've been on this board for 30 years, watched Willow build her empire, and I knew, we all knew, something wasn't right. But we stayed quiet, comfortable." He looked at me. "Maybe it's time we listened to someone who wasn't afraid to speak up." The mood in the room shifted. Howard sat down, deflated. "The reforms pass," Thomas declared, unanimously. After the meeting, my office phone rang. It was the prison. "Regina?" Willow's voice sounded smaller through the receiver. "I heard about the board meeting." How? I still have friends. For now. She paused. You're dismantling everything I built. I'm saving what's worth saving. By exposing our weaknesses to the world, the press is having a field day. Transparency isn't weakness, Aunt Willow. You taught me that, remember? When you made me watch my studio fail. Silence on the line. You wanted me to learn about power, I continued. Well, I learned. Real power comes from truth, not secrets. She hung up. I was gathering my things to leave when Stella burst in, pale and shaking. Regina, we have a problem, a big one. She dropped a file on my desk. Inside were photos, dozens of them, my parents at secret meetings, Marcus accepting envelopes of cash, me accessing company files late at night. Willow had a backup plan, Stella explained. These make everyone look complicit. She's threatening to release them to the media. My hands shook as I flipped through the photos. When? Tomorrow morning, unless what? Unless you resign, publicly, take full blame for the fraud, say you acted alone. I sank into my chair. She's trying to rewrite history, make me the villain. Regina, Marcus appeared in the doorway. Mom just called. Dad's in the hospital, heart attack. The world tilted sideways. At the hospital, Mother paced the waiting room, makeup streaked with tears. The doctors say it was stress. When he saw those photos... What photos? She pulled out her phone, showed me the email. More pictures, different ones. Father accepting bribes 20 years ago. The gambling debts, everything. Willow sent these an hour ago, Mother whispered. Said more would come out tomorrow. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Tick-tock, Willow's voice purred. How many more casualties before you do the right thing? The right thing? You're destroying people's lives. No, dear. You did that when you chose exposure over family loyalty. I looked at Mother's tears, thought of Father lying in that hospital bed. What do you want? You know what I want. Your confession, your disgrace, your surrender. Marcus grabbed the phone. It's over, Aunt Willow. Release whatever you want. We're not playing your games anymore. He hung up, turned to me. We knew this would get ugly. Not this ugly. I gestured at the waiting room. Dad could die. If we give in now, everything we did was for nothing. Mother stepped between us. What are you going to do? I stared at my reflection in the hospital window. In the glass, I saw myself at the studio opening, full of hope. Saw myself discovering Willow's fraud. Saw myself shredding her files, choosing a better way. I'm going to tell another truth, I said, pulling out my phone. The whole truth. I dialed the number for the biggest news network in the city. This is Regina. I'm ready to talk. About everything. No holds barred. Marcus grabbed my arm. Are you sure? Once you do this? I'm sure. I looked at Mother. We're done hiding. Done being afraid. It's time everyone knew exactly who Willow is and who we chose not to be. The reporter's voice crackled through the phone. We're sending a crew now. Outside the hospital window, the sun was setting on another day of chaos. Tomorrow would bring more storms, more revelations, more pain, but also, finally, freedom. The TV studio lights felt hot on my face as I sat across from Sarah Palmer, the nation's most respected investigative journalist. Millions would be watching this interview live. So, Regina, Sarah leaned forward, tell us about the moment you discovered the fraud. It started with a spreadsheet, I began, but really, it started years before, when my aunt destroyed my photography studio. For the next hour, I laid it all bare. The fraud, the manipulation, the decades of secrets and lies. Behind the cameras, Marcus stood watching, nodding encouragement. These are serious allegations, Sarah noted. Your aunt's lawyers claim you're seeking revenge for your failed business. They're right about one thing. I did want revenge. I pulled out my old studio keys. But then I realized something bigger was at stake. This wasn't just about me anymore. My phone vibrated. Mother's text. Dad's awake. He's watching. Sarah held up the photos Willow had threatened to release. Your aunt claims these prove your involvement in the fraud. Those photos show me gathering evidence. Evidence I took to the authorities. Evidence that's already led to 3 arrests this morning. 3 arrests? Board members who helped Willow hide the money. They're cooperating now, telling everything. The studio doors burst open. Stella walked in, flanked by federal agents. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she announced, "but I have something to add to this interview." Sarah gestured to a production assistant who brought another chair. "For 20 years," Stella said, settling in, "I helped Willow hide her crimes. Today I'm turning over everything. Every document, every transaction, every secret." My phone buzzed again. This time it was the prison. "Excuse me," I stood up. "I need to take this." In the hallway, Willow's voice shook with rage. "You think this changes anything? I still have enough dirt to bury everyone." "No, you don't. Check the news feeds. Stella's talking. The board members are talking. It's over." "It's not over until I say it's over," she was shouting now. "I made you. I made this family. You broke this family, and now we're fixing it. Without you." Back in the studio, Sarah was reviewing the documents Stella had brought. Her eyes widened. "These implicate people in government, in other companies." "Yes," I sat back down. "My aunt's influence went far beyond our family. That's why exposing the truth matters so much. And you're willing to accept the consequences. For your family, for yourself. The consequences of truth are better than living with lies." After the interview, I found Marcus in the parking lot. "Dad's asking for you," he said. At the hospital, Father looked small in the white bed. The TV was still on, showing replays of the interview. "You did good, kid," he said weakly. "Dad, No, let me finish." He took my hand. "I was wrong. About everything. About you. About Willow. I was so afraid of losing what we had. I couldn't see what we were becoming." Mother wiped tears from her eyes. "We all were." My phone rang again. The federal agent in charge of the investigation. "Regina, Willow wants to make a deal. She's ready to confess. Everything." I put the phone on speaker. "One condition." Willow's voice filled the room. "I want to talk to Regina first, face to face." Father squeezed my hand. "You don't have to go." "Yes, I do." I picked up my bag. "It's time to end this. For all of us." The prison visiting room was cold and sterile. Willow sat behind the glass, her designer clothes replaced by an orange jumpsuit. "You won," she said simply. "Happy now?" "This wasn't about winning." "No? Then what was it about?" "Breaking free, all of us, even you." She laughed bitterly. "Free? I'll die in prison." "Not if you cooperate, help make things right." "Right?" She pressed her hand against the glass. "I gave everything to this family. Everything. You took everything from this family. Our trust, our dreams, our souls." For the first time, I saw tears in her eyes. "I didn't know how to be anything else," she whispered. "Anything other than powerful. Then learn, help us rebuild. The right way this time." She stared at me for a long moment. "You really are stronger than I ever was." "Because I chose truth over power." "The truth," she smiled sadly. "Okay, Regina, you want the truth. Get ready to write. It started 30 years ago." As Willow talked, confessing everything, I watched the sunset through the prison windows. Tomorrow, the headlines would scream with new revelations. More arrests would come. The company would shake again. But for the first time in years, I felt light, free. The truth had cost us everything we thought we needed, and given us everything we actually did. The morning sun streamed through the windows of my old photography studio as I unlocked the door for the first time in 3 years. The space still held echoes of what it once was, and what it would become again. Marcus helped me carry in boxes of camera equipment. "You sure about this? The company still needs you." "The company has you," I smiled. "Besides, this isn't about choosing one or the other anymore." The bell above the door chimed. Mother walked in, carrying coffee and bagels. Your father's parking the car. He insisted on coming, even though he should be resting. Doctors cleared me weeks ago, Father grumbled, following behind her. He looked around the studio. So this is where it all started. And where it starts again, I said, unpacking my cameras, but differently this time. The space would be both gallery and office, showcasing local artists, while housing the new charitable foundation we'd created from the recovered fraud money. Art grants, business mentorship, second chances. My phone buzzed. A text from Stella. Turning state's evidence was the right choice. Just finished another deposition. You should see the prosecutors' faces when I show them the files. Father peered over my shoulder at a framed photo on the wall. The original studio opening. I never really looked at your work before. Too busy believing Willow's version of success. Dad, you don't have to. Yes, I do. He touched the frame gently. You saw beauty where we saw balance sheets. That's not weakness, that's vision. The door chimed again. Thomas from the board walked in, carrying a large envelope. The paperwork's done, he announced. The foundation is officially separate from the company, but with guaranteed annual funding. No one can touch it, not even future boards. Marcus grinned. Willow would hate this. Actually, I said, she doesn't. They all turned to look at me. I visited her yesterday. She's different now. The confession changed something in her. What did she say? Mother asked softly. She asked to see my photos, really see them for the first time, and then she told me where to find these. I pulled out a stack of photographs from my bag, ancient Polaroids of a teenage Willow, holding a camera, beaming with creative joy. She wanted to be a photographer too, I explained, before family expectations and power took over. That doesn't excuse what she did, Marcus said. No, but it helps explain it. And maybe, I hung one of Willow's old photos next to mine. Maybe understanding is its own kind of freedom. The door chimed once more. Sarah Palmer walked in with a camera crew. Ready for the follow-up story? She asked. The one about healing and second chances. I looked around the studio, at Father's proud smile, Mother's tearful joy, Marcus's steady presence, Thomas's respectful nod, at the space that had once represented my greatest failure, now transformed into something more powerful than Willow's empire ever was. Actually, I said, picking up my camera, let me show you instead. I led them through the studio, explaining our vision, art and business, creativity and structure, truth and redemption. And what about your aunt? Sarah asked. Will she have any role in this? She's teaching photography classes, I replied, in prison, helping inmates find their voice through art. You forgave her? No, I adjusted my lens, focusing on the morning light streaming through the windows. But I understood her, and sometimes understanding is better than forgiveness. The camera crew filmed as we hung photos, arranged furniture, brought the space to life. Every frame told a story, not just of art, but of transformation. Father helped Marcus move a heavy desk, no longer the broken man from the hospital. Mother arranged flowers, humming softly, free from decades of secrets. Thomas reviewed foundation documents with genuine enthusiasm, no longer just a silent witness. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Willow. Found more old photos. When you visit next week, bring your camera. I want to learn to see beauty again. I smiled, picking up my favorite camera, the one I'd almost sold when the studio failed. Through its viewfinder, I captured this moment of rebirth, of family redefined, of power reimagined. Ready? Marcus called out, holding up a new sign for the window. Ready, I answered, adjusting the focus. Together, we hung the sign. Second Light Studios and Foundation, where art meets opportunity. The morning sun caught the letters, making them glow. Through my lens, I saw not just what was, but what could be. Not an ending, but a beginning. Click. Sometimes the most powerful images are the ones that show us who we really are and who we might become. I took another photo, capturing everything in a single frame. The light, the hope, the truth. Click. The story wasn't over. It was just being told differently now, through a clearer lens.